Okay, so this is the much requested tutorial for making your guns compatible with 3D ballistics that is included in the engine now of Anomaly. There's a couple different things that we got to go over, and I think there's going to be a two-parter. The first is going to be setting up your models in Blender, and then the second part is going to be setting up your configs in the game itself. So the first thing that's really important actually is making sure that your armature is good, and by good I mean that it's pretty much the weapon body needs to be kind of like parallel to every orientation. So let me see if I can find the weapon body. Here it is. So if you look at it this way, there's either very little or no twist. If you look at it from the top, again, you'll see that there's very little or no twist. And then from the back, again, very little or no twist. So making sure the orientation of your weapon body is pretty much the most important thing. You can always go into your transform panel and check on your roll and pretty much any of the other properties that it has. Really, ideally, your roll should be 0, but this 0.019 is so negligible that it doesn't really matter. Most good armatures or any good animation should just point forward, and if not, you can most of the time straighten them out. So that's the first thing you gotta make sure of. And the second thing you want to do is actually either add a weapon bone or adjust your existing muzzle bone. So on this armature, it already has a muzzle bone that I've adjusted. And the way to do this, or the way I do it, is I will click on the model itself and then select the outside vertices of whatever the muzzle brake is, or the barrel, and then you hit select or Shift S and then do cursor to selected. This will move your 3D origin to the center of these vertices that you've selected, which in most cases is going to be a circle. From there, you can actually select your armature, go into edit, and then add a single bone, and it will directly add a bone to the 3D location you placed. So at this point, your muzzle location is almost perfect to your barrel. You'll want to reduce your bone a little bit because that's what you're going to start with. So let's go back and edit, bring this down. There, that's good. So then at this point you can go back into your edit view, and you want to select forward facing Y orthogonic, and here you can see how aligned your muzzle bone is with your iron sights. Again, depending on your model and how it was made, your iron sights may be perfectly aligned to your muzzle, or they may be offset a little bit. Sometimes a little bit of offset is fine. Easy way to check is to pull up your muzzle bone and see how aligned it is with your iron sights. So here you can see that it's pretty much perfect on the alignment. So you can Control Z and return it back to where it was. Since I already have one, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this bone. So here's the one that I already have. For this one, I place it a little further back from the original point, just so that the muzzle flash won't be too far away from the barrel. And if we look again, it's still pretty much aligned. So if your iron sights, if your weapon body and your iron sights aligned, then you should be pretty much good to go. If they aren't aligned, when you look at it in this view, there's an easy way to do that. I'll show you 3 different types of iron sights. The first is this type, where I guess the rear iron sight is kind of built into the gun, or part of the gun, and it has an aperture like this. So what you can do here, and I've already done it for this model, but you can select the vertices of your aperture, and then you want to go into loop tools, and you hit circle. Unfortunately, that messed that up. So, in order to do that, you want to make sure you only have one plane. This one was pretty good, so I don't think I had to do loop tools on it. Circle, yeah, so it just aligned it a little bit more, but that was fine. That's fine as is. So you want to do the Shift S trick here, and cursor to selected. So this is going to put your cursor kind of in the middle of your circle. You're going to want to then, from this view, select your front post. Go in X-ray, select all your vertices, and then drag the post down. Select the barrel. Okay. You want to go into this view and drag your post either up or down to match the center of where your aperture is. So this will pretty much give you the exact center of where your post should align to. When you do those three things, then your model will be pretty much ready to go. There will be one more thing you got to do. When you go, you want to load your animation in, and then you're going to go to your animation tab and select your either newly created muzzle bone or your existing muzzle bone that you moved. Move your frame to 0, and then copy pose. Do this before selecting your animation. Then go into your action editor, and I thought I added motions to this. Hold on. Okay. Don't forget to import your motions, like I did. Okay. So now, let's make sure we copy this bone, pose, and then go into your first animation, whatever happens to be. The most important ones for this bone to be correct on are the shooting animation. Every other animation doesn't really matter, but the shooting animation should have the correct bone pose. So here, because I already edited all the animations, they are correct, but you're going to want to paste your pose, and that'll move it to where your bone is, and then do location and rotation to add the keyframes, and then you can do that for every other single one of your shooting animations or your animations. I like to do it for all the animations, just to make it easier for when I'm setting up. Definitely you want to do it for the shooting animations and actually the idle animations as well, and your aim animation depending on which is used for your aiming configuration. So once you've got that done for all your animations, then you can export that, and your animation will be set. If you have a gun that has an existing muzzle bone, say it's all the way over here. Okay. So again, you can go ahead and let me show you this one. So this one has a different part, as you can see. So we're going to go ahead do this. So you select your wherever your barrel point is, wherever you happen to be using as your muzzle, your reference for your muzzle. Cursor to selected, and then when you hit on your armature, you can move your muzzle bone by doing selection to cursor, and it'll move your muzzle bone directly in place where you want it to be. Then we'll show the muzzle again. We'll edit it again, and then we'll just move it further up, down, wherever you need to move it to adjust it for your muzzle. So sometimes you might have iron sights with a flat blade on the back, such as with the AKs. So in this case, you want to pretty much line them up so that this is as flat as you can get it. Doesn't have to be perfect, because in game you're not going to notice that much of a difference. Like, so you can't really notice it from here, and in game it's going to be like even further back. It doesn't really matter, but as long as it's kind of flat, you should be good. And then for something like a weapon with two different sight posts that are different models, you want to align your muzzle point first, and then you want to go ahead and use the muzzle point as your reference for aligning your front and rear sight. And then depending on what kind of sight it is, you might have to modify it. These are ones that I made for the AKM, are already modified to be pretty much in line. So if you wanted to go into the 3D SSG files and grab these, you just do this. You join them, set the origin to geometry, you copy and clear the transforms, and then you can just copy and paste this to whatever other gun you need, and these will be perfectly aligned. At the very least, in reference to themselves, you might have to like move them around to get them aligned with your muzzle bone or whatever on your gun. Again, it doesn't need to be 100% perfect. For example, the AKs from Nick, they aren't perfectly aligned, but in game you can actually pretty much align them well, just because of the way they're zeroed. And then one last thing as well, when doing a laser, you want your laser point to be aligned with your muzzle bone. So doing that is real easy. So after you've fixed your muzzle point, you select the tail of the muzzle bone, do cursor to selected again, and then select your dot, set your origin to the 3D cursor, and then hit geometry to origin. That's going to move your point, your laser point, in this case this plane here, to exactly aligned with your muzzle bone. If you're playing with default gamma settings, then you want to set it to the Y to 55 meters out, and that'll pretty much be the maximum distance you can set it to without it disappearing for anyone not playing on max render distance. If you happen to be playing with max render distance and don't really care if people can see it or not, you can set this out to 125, and that'll be almost perfectly aligned with your center of screen when you set up in game. So it really just depends. 55 is pretty good, I think, because it's a little more realistic. It kind of offsets it a little bit from the center without being too far off, so you still kind of get the idea of where you're shooting at. And then for the laser itself, or the laser beam, you can do a little trick here. You can go and edit your laser mesh, select by planes in this case, or faces, and then we're going to do again, cursor selected. You go in to your laser mesh, select the end of your laser, and then do selection of cursor, keep offset. Now your laser is perfectly coming out of the emitter portion of the laser. And then you can pretty much do the same trick on the geometry of the dot. So you can actually do origin to geometry, and then do cursor to selected, and now put your 3D cursor on the middle of this geometry, which since it's a square, it'll be perfectly centered. You hit your laser again, and then you'll go all the way out to wherever your the end of your laser line is. There it is. And again, X-ray, select your endpoints, and then do selection to cursor keep offset. And now your laser is perfectly emitting from the center of your laser point to the center of the dot. And you can adjust this even further by cutting the mesh. I usually cut it at 5 meters after doing this, just so it stays aligned, but it doesn't look weird. Sometimes when you emit the laser out that far, it'll look weird depending on the render distance and a bunch of different shader settings. So that is how you adjust your armature and your meshes for 3D ballistics. Hopefully that was pretty clear. I'm pretty bad at explaining things, so if you need any further clearing up, just let me know on the Discord.